Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my channel. So today I'm coming to you with a small unboxing, and what I have here is the Delve square. It's a 3.5 inch square. Now I have an assortment of squares back there on the wall. I have two Milwaukees. One is I want to say probably is that a 4 or 5 inch? Yeah, like a 5 inch, and then I have a 6 inch Milwaukee square, and then I have a Bench Dogs 175 millimeter square, which is more precision. I do have the bigger squares, the TSO and the Bench Dogs, and if you look back here on my right, I have an assortment of other types of squares. What I was looking for was something a little bit smaller, because there are times when I'm working with different projects where I want to just mark off small things, so I decided to pick this particular square up. Let's go ahead and open it up. So this is a presentation here. You've got a mini Delve square. It's a 3.5 inch square. Also in the box, you have a racket. This gives you the ability to hang it on the wall if you need to, and it also has some instructions that go with it. Now, this particular square has some pretty unique features. As I'm looking at it from the top down here, there's a narrower side lip on this side, a little bit larger lip on this side, and then you also have these holes here so that you can mark. So this particular square has some unique features. The different bases, or the different sizes of the base, give you the ability to use it as a setup block. You can scribe your material with any of the holes that are along this part of the blade. You can actually do angles or percentages of angles, where basically if you put the square up against your work and then you put it at whatever degree. So if I want a 10-degree angle, I would put it there, and then I would scribe my line this way. So you have that functionality. Taking a look here, you can see I can scribe my 90 line here. I can also scribe my 45, so you have access to that by buttoning it up to your edge of your work. If I want to draw lines down my board, I can turn it in this orientation, and I can stick it in, say, the 1/2 inch mark, and then bring the square down my work, and that's going to give me a line a 1/2 inch from the side. If I want to do 3 inches, I will put it over here, and I would scribe my line down the side. Again, I could come down here. Well, that was 1.5, or this right here is the 1. And I can come down. All of these are referencing off of this base right here on the actual square. Now, if I wanted to say do angles with this square, I put it up to the base of my work here, and then there are degrees. So you've got 80, 70, 60, you've got 67.5, 50, 45, 40. So let's say I want a 20-degree angle. I will pull it all the way down to the 20, hold it, and then I would scribe my line there, and then that's going to give me my 20-degree angle referenced off of this edge here. You also have a shelf pin hole that you can use right here on the device, where you can drill down right here to do shelf pin holes. The blade itself is 1/8 of an inch, so if you wanted to, say, set a router bit, you would go down to the blade itself, and that would be 1/8 of an inch. Going to this reference here, that's going to be another measurement. If you want to, say, mark a certain portion inside of your material, you can put the lip right here, and then you can draw down and scribe on your work, and then you can come around on the opposite side and do the same thing. The base of this square is 3/4 of an inch, and you can use it as a setup block to set your table saw fence if you wanted to make, like, say, a cut that's 3/4 of an inch from your side of your workpiece. Alternatively, you can use the 3/4 inch base to set the height of your table saw blade to 3/4 of an inch. If you want to measure higher than the 3/4 inch base, you can set the square up properly, and then you can adjust your table saw blade up or down accordingly. The lowest base of the actual base of the triangle is about 1/4 of an inch, and then you can go all the way up to the maximum capacity of your table saw. On mine, it goes to just over 2 inches. You can also use this delve square to set your table saw blade to 45 degrees. This can be helpful if your table saw is not accurate on the 45-degree setting. You can use this to kind of double check your angle if you'd like. Once you finish with your 45-degree angle, you can use the same square to reset or calibrate your saw blade back to 90. Over at the router table, the delve square can be used to set the height of your router bit. In the upright position, the base can be used as a 1/4-inch setup block. Using the perpendicular portion of the square in conjunction with the scale offers a range of height settings to suit your project. With a steady hand, you can use the width of the base to set your router bit to 3/4 of an inch in height. Alternatively, in this position, you could use the base offset to adjust your router bit to either 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch, respectively. All right, guys, so here you can see I have my board in a perpendicular position. I have my 3.5-inch delve square here, and this particular square is very helpful with 3/4-inch workpieces. Now, this side here is going to be a 1/4 of an inch. This lip, if you can see it there, 3/4 of an inch here. And the opposite side is going to be 3/8 of an inch. Now, that totals out to be 3/4 of an inch across the base here. Now, where that comes into usefulness on a board like this is like 3/4-inch board. I can take it here, and if I put it on the 3/8 mark and I butt it up against my work, and then I scribe a line, I'm able to come back around on the opposite side and scribe a line, and the exact center of these two lines is going to be the center of the board. So if I wanted to come back and, let's say, drill a hole in the center, I can use this peephole. I can use a VIX bit with this hole to drill right into the center of this hole. Now, I could use any other kind of drill bit as well, but the VIX bit actually is kind of self-centering, so you can utilize the combination of this hole and the marking of this device to drill holes in the center of this board on edge. Now, the other functionality is, let me see if I can erase this line off of here. I can take the other end, so that was using the 3/8 lip on this particular square. Now let's go ahead and use the 1/4-inch lip. So when I put it on the board and I draw a line, and then I come on the opposite side and I scribe another line, what this is going to give me the ability to do is this can be a mortise. So if I take this material in between here and mortise that out, I can take another board similar to this and I can use it, like if you look at how I mark this board, right? I can do the same thing, and let's say, let me cut off this portion here. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer so you can see maybe. So like, say if I cut off this portion here like this, and right here where I made my squiggle lines, that portion I mortise out. But then down here, let's say on this section, if this was another board, I can cut out the outside portion, and then I can make my tenon. So this portion in the center can be the tenon to fit within this mortise. So that's one of the benefits of using a square like this on 3/4 inch stock. You can use it, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You've got, if you want the center of the board, you use the 3/8. If you want to lay out mortise and tenon work, you'll use the 1/4 inch, and you can see the perfect layout. This would be your tenon, this would be your mortise. So it's super helpful in that way as far as laying out things like that quickly with this 3.5 inch square. Now obviously the 3.5 inch square does have its limitations as far as, you know, how far you are able to mark. Now if you have a, you know, steady hand and you keep your square butted up against your work, you can come down like this, and with practice you can get a lot better with that. But obviously if you had a longer base triangle, you would be able to cover a lot more space or a lot more of a length in a faster and a more efficient way. But regardless, this is a very handy square used in this orientation. Now something else that I wanted to display, I'm going to go ahead and release these clamps. I'm going to take my board out, and I want to put my board in this orientation here. So right now it's up on the top end, it's butted up against my fence on the MFT. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to buckle it in at the top, kind of just out. Well, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it here, and basically I'm going to do this where I pin the board in just like this, but I'm going to do it just out of the camera so that you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. So this is how I'm securing the board, and I'm going to do it down on the bottom as well, just out of the camera. And the reason for that is because I want to demonstrate another function of this 3.5 inch delve square. So along here you have holes, and they are 1/8 of an inch apart. Let me just see if I can get a little bit closer. These are all 1/8 of an inch apart. So if I come onto the edge of my workpiece, I can take my mechanical pencil and put it in here. This is 1/2 inch, this is 1 inch, this is 1.5 inch, 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and then 3 inches. And let me just go into the 2 inch mark, and that's going to give me the ability to scribe. Let me get my lead out, make sure it's long enough. When I go into the 2 inch marking, I can scribe a line all the way down my workpiece, marking 2 inches from this side of my board. Now let's say I wanted to inset the exact amount on both sides. Because this is a machine device, I can simply flip it over, butt it up to the other side, find my 2 inch hole, and scribe down and make a parallel line down my workpiece. Now the line that I made here and the line that I made here are both 2 inches inset, and I have the ability to do that. I can do 3 inches here, I can do 2.5 inches, I can do 1.5 inches, I can do 1 inch, and obviously 1/2 inch. Now I can do these 1/8 up to 1/8 of an inch apart. So between the 1/2 inch and the 1 inch, I'm going to come back here and mark a line in between. I can mark a line in between the 1 and the 1.5 inch. And then even further still, I can go between the 1 and the 1 1/4 and come back with that 1 1/8 inch line. So it gives you a lot of flexibility being able to mark different things on your workpiece. So this is a very versatile square. You can use it for mortise and tenon work. You can use it for obviously referencing the edge and scribing straight lines down your workpiece. Now there's this area on the side here, this little hole. It's called a peephole, if you will. And the way that it can function is, like, say if I put it, let me just unlock these and move these clamps out. If I take my board to the edge here, so you can see it, I can move this up to the edge of my board like this, and then with referencing the base. So I'm referencing this shelf onto the edge of my board, which is here, and then I slide it over to the edge, and I'll line up, there's two little white marks here, which is the 1/2 inch mark, and I can line that up to the exact edge of this board here. So that is something that you can do. So you know that you're starting at this 1/2 inch mark right here that is marked on your square. So that's another functionality that you can use with this particular triangle. Aside from that, let me just do a quick demonstration on the angles. Let me buckle this down so it doesn't move. Okay, so right here I have my square on the edge of my board, and you have several markings. You have the 10, 20, 22.5, 30, 40, 45, 50, 60, 67.5, 70, 80. So if I want to get an angle out of this device, I can rotate it accordingly. So let's say if I want to put it to 30 degrees, I will mark the 30 line and put it in line with the edge of my board, and then I'll use the back edge of the triangle and mark, and that's going to give me my 30-degree line. Likewise, if I come back and let's say I want to do 50, I would turn the device all the way to 50 and make a line like that. Now there's a device that Woodpecker sells. It's called a stair gauge, where you can kind of clamp it on here and you can lock it in to where it would butt up and stick right where you want it to be on your workpiece, so that every time you butt it up, because as it is now, you're kind of going off of your eyesight. You're looking down at the triangle and determining from that if you have the proper positioning. There is a chance that you may have parallax error and be off by 1 or 2 degrees, whether it be up or down. But you know, if you're not doing, you know, things that have to be exactly perfect, this is a great reference to get your, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 degree angles with this triangle. Now obviously you've got your hard set 90, you've got your hard set 45-degree angle, and you can get other angles on this device accordingly, from, you know, essentially 5 degree all the way up to about 80 degrees with this particular triangle. So there are several other features that I'm sure that this triangle offers that I am not knowledgeable of, but initially, like I said, I just bought this triangle so that it gives me a little bit of a smaller device to work in tighter spaces. Again, let me compare with, these are my original squares that I had in my shop. Obviously, just looking at them visually, you don't see much of a difference. These are Milwaukee off the shelf triangles. Now what I found over time, and I didn't realize this, is that when I went to compare one triangle or one square to another one, they were not all lining up. So it took time for me to realize that not all of these are precisionally made. You may be lucky, you may buy one of these Milwaukee ones and it may be dead on 90, but you may buy one and it may be slightly out, just due to there's just different tolerances in these devices. I mean, both of these squares together don't cost as much as this particular square, which is basically has a lot of, they say it's a precision square, and it's accurate to within, I think it's like 0.004 of an inch or something like that. I might be off on that, but it's something like that. And so these particular devices, the Milwaukees, do not have that same kind of disclaimer. So you have to be mindful of that. And you know, when I started off doing all this woodworking, I didn't know that. So I was building projects and I would grab this square because I saw it, or I would grab this one because I saw it, or even still, I'd grab this Harbor Freight model and throw it into the mix, and I would use them all, you know, as if they were the same on the same project, not realizing that there could be a difference between one and the other, which introduced more and more of an error into your work. So you want to kind of stick with the same tools so that the type of error is the same across all your the tools that you use. So you know, obviously the reason why I had bought this smaller square was because it fits into tighter places than this square. Now, I know I've had this Harbor Freight version longer than I had these Milwaukee ones, but when I started buying a bunch of Milwaukee tools, I kind of like my tools to match. So when I was in Home Depot, I picked these up. And then, as I said, over time, I ended up learning that, you know, these devices are not necessarily as accurate as like your Woodpecker or even something like your benchdogs.co.uk. These are precision devices that carry a heavier price tag, but with that comes a little bit more of a guarantee of a higher percentage of accuracy. Nothing's perfect, but it's going to be greater than the variation that you may find in your off-the-shelf parts. So just taking a look at this is going to be really nice. I mean, like, I'm not super technical with tools and devices like these. I just find that sometimes I'm working with smaller materials, and having a larger square like this is just a little bit too much. Now, I did get a free gift, which is this mini Dell square, which is often too small. So having this 3.5 is gonna help me when I'm using smaller items or whatever. It's gonna work out a little bit better than using the bigger one or having to refer to this really tiny Dell square. Anyways, this has been a really small unboxing of the Woodpeckers Dell square. It offers a lot of little functionality and features that I hope to utilize in the shop. Anyways, yeah, that's just been my unboxing and review of this Woodpeckers Dell Square, or overview, not really a review. For me in my shop, I needed it because I wanted something smaller. Even if you just look at the difference in size between these three, you can see that they can all fit in different spaces. You know, they're not all the same. And then, you know, this was, again, the free gift that I got with my other squares. And you can see even this can have a use case. Now, this is not necessarily something that you would run out and buy. I'm glad that I got this as a free gift. But there have been times when something like this is very useful. There's going to be times when this is going to be more applicable, and so on and so forth. So anyways, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking time to watch this video. And I'll see you in my next one. Take care.